So this is the beginning of my warband. On the left is the leader, Gustoff. He will be melee. Preshlem to his right is going to be fast. Later on, I'll upgrade her to have minions. I have small animals like cats and birds and things like that she will feed and take care of, and they will be her minions. And Erin will be ranged. And Maria is support because she heals and whatnot. She's very spiritual. And then Oswald will also be support because of all the myriad of things that he has in his backpack. Potions and technology and all kinds of stuff he'll throw out. Today's opponents will be a warband made up of humanoid animals and humanoid people. And there's many ragtag bands of people that band together for whatever reason in the Ether Realm. And this is just one of them. They have 2 upgraded characters today, that's why they have 1 fewer model. The one on the left will be upgraded to a beast, and the guy next to him is just a normal melee, and then the ape, the third one from the left, is going to be a berserker. And then the fourth one is just going to be a normal ranged, making up 5 points to match the 5 points of my army. Now that both armies are set up, I wanted to take this time to say that Gustav's army is on the left here, and you'll see that there's Gustoff, Maria, and Presh, and over here is Erin and Oswald. And there is an objective here, an objective there, an objective there, and then finally an objective over here. On the other side of the enemy, their ranged person perched up here on this rock. The ape is over here, ready to pounce on one of those 3 objectives. And then over here, we have the fast and the melee, or the beast and the melee. For this mission, Gustoff and his party will be using the faction trait called Disciplined, where at the beginning of each turn, on a 7 or higher, I may get an extra action for one of my models. On the other side, his opponent is going to be using the faction trait called Fearless, and that means they can prey or loot within 6 inches of a visible enemy because they're not afraid of any attacks. This mission is set in the wilderness and will be using the wilderness rules. Gustoff and his party are still fleeing from the cannibal tribe, and I'm certain they're still being chased. They are starving and quite hungry, and they stumble upon these altars of Ishtar. So they figure, well, we'll pray to Ishtar and hopefully she will answer our prayers and give us some edible food, because it's always very hard to determine what is edible and what is poisonous in the Ether Realm. So they stumble upon these altars, and quickly they find out that there is another warband, an opposing warband, that also wants to pray for whatever reason they have. The enemy archer sees Gustav's team approach in the woods. She climbs up her rock, finds her perch, takes aim at Erin over there next to Oswald, lets loose 2 arrows, and does a head wound to poor Erin, and also does a disarmed result. So Oswald moves up in front of Erin. He tries to protect her because they just recently found a barrier device from a technologically advanced race. He throws it on the ground to try to protect her from this archer, and unfortunately it doesn't work. Then he attempts to throw a smoke grenade, and it accidentally goes in the pond behind her, so to no effect whatsoever. Thank you, Oswald. Oswald hears someone in the bushes, and the swordsman comes out of the trees trying to assault Oswald, but unfortunately he fails his charge. Presh sneaks around the rock up to the altar. She quietly observes the archer up on the rock. She says a silent prayer to Ishtar, and it goes well. The ape lets out a howl, runs up onto the rock, and makes a silent prayer for more bloodshed soon to come. Ishtar is pleased with his outcome, and they get a victory point. It's 1-1. Gustoff circles around the rock and goes up to the objective marker. He makes a prayer for Ishtar to help them and provide them food, and everything seems to go well. They score a victory point. It's 2-1. The cavalry person runs from around this rock here, past the melee person, and over to this objective Being that they're fearless, they don't care that Aaron or Oswald is right there. And he attempts to pray, and Ishtar is not happy with him. He just recently showed mercy on someone, and she does not appreciate that. And he is suddenly attacked by bees from that nearby red tree. He scatters 8 inches randomly as he tries to flee from the bees, and they do not score a victory point. Maria activates next. She's feeling quite selfless, runs out even though she's now in the direct firing range of the archer, and she feels terrible for Oswald, who is inevitably going to be charged over there soon. And poor Aaron is horribly disfigured now and down to only 1 single wound. She runs out and heals Aaron with her first spell, and then she tries to protect Oswald with a spiritual aura to defend him when he gets assaulted. But Ishtar does not appreciate her selfless acts and deals her 1 wound that is not savable. Freshly healed and feeling invigorated, Aaron picks up her bow, takes aim at that melee person right there, and lets loose 2 arrows. Only one finds their mark, and he is horribly damaged in his face. She chops his ear right off with an arrow. He loses 1 hit point. He's bleeding profusely, but otherwise he's just a bit shaken, causing -1 willpower. At the beginning of turn 2, the enemy wins the roll-off. The archer takes this opportunity to strike at Maria, being that she has elevation and line of sight to her. She's in pretty good shape. Unfortunately, even with the reroll, the archer fails 1 of her shots with her bow and arrow, and Maria is able to dodge it. And then a helpful spirit comes out from Maria's cloak and protects her from the shot that did hit home. Maria is miraculously saved despite the horrible odds against her. Despite their differences, Gustoff and his crew did not survive this long without looking out for each other. Oswald takes this opportunity to move closer to Maria and tries to protect his dear friend. He throws out that barrier generator again and is successful. So now that archer cannot shoot through that barrier at Oswald, Maria, or Gustoff. Unfortunately, Aaron is still on her own. He also attempts to throw another smoke grenade, yet bounces off the rock yet again and back into the pond. Oswald, you are a terrible throw. Gustoff hears the rush of hoofprints behind him. The cavalry person runs past Oswald and straight into Maria, dealing 2 wounds to her that are unsaved. Poor Maria falls and is slain right behind Gustoff. Gustoff turns around and sees his friend slowly disappear. She will reappear back at their base. Seething with anger, Aaron sees Maria cut down by this cavalry person. She turns the corner and sprints after him, loosing 2 arrows. One hits the rock, but the other one finds its target. It does a critical wound on this guy and deals him 2 damage. Being that he was already a beast, he had 4 wounds, now he's down to 2. Smelling blood, the ape forgets all about his prayers to Ishtar, leaps off the rock and tries to assault Gustoff. He doesn't make his charge. Presh decides to help the rest of her gang. Being that they got their discipline point off this turn, she runs around this, uses an action to run up to the objective marker. She prays and is successful. Immediately after that, the swordsman runs up to this altar and prays for Ishtar's assistance. His prayers are heard. Possibly slightly secretly angry that Maria was murdered, Gustoff runs around the cavalry person and assaults from behind, doing an amazing 5 hits out of 3 attacks, and did 5 unsaved wounds on that poor cavalryman. Maybe you see now why Gustoff is considered their leader. Despite not being a very good guy, he knows what he's doing with the blade. Gustoff is suddenly assaulted from behind by a raging gorilla. The gorilla does 2 horrible wounds to Gustoff, minusing his fighting skill and minusing 2 to his movement. He's got an arm wound and a leg wound. He's bleeding pretty badly. And the gorilla takes 1 damage in turn with a -1 to his fighting skill. Another arrow from Aaron does another wound to the poor ape. There was no effect. The 1 was rolled on the table. The archer hops down from her rock and takes aim at Gustoff. Gustoff is laid low with an arrow to the eye socket. Presh decides to let loose another quick prayer to Ishtar at this altar, and all goes swimmingly. Fearing that a brutal end is coming for him, Oswald pulls out some gadgets from his bag. He's able to throw another smoke bomb, and finally this one hits the mark. Erin is now +2 to her save, making her a 1 through 4. And he's able to slightly nudge the force field over to try to keep that ape away from him and Presh. And he mimes an apology to Erin because he is kind of leaving her out dry here. At the top of the final turn, Erin is able to slide into the confines of this barrier, protected from this archer over here temporarily, and is able to shoot the ape dead with her bow. Probably fearing the disappointment from Ishtar, the swordsman prays at the altar one more time and gets another victory point for his team. Presh prays one more time and is able to score another victory points. The archer is able to round the corner of the barrier and tries to make short work of Presh. Presh isn't having it and dodges both shots from her. So at the end of the game, this is a victory for Gustoff's team. Despite Gustoff actually perishing and Maria perishing, we still have Presh, and we have Oswald, and we have an injured Erin,